Eyes on the target.
Finally, I can make things right.
Nobby? Oh my God.
Comedy is somewhat objective, let's be honest, and our man Sacha Baron Cohen really is at the forefront of this. You either like his humour or you don't. He tends to be quite divisive. Of course, he's brought us Borat, Bruno, the Dictator. This film is more of your straight action comedy, although it definitely does have a touch of the somewhat controversial and a bit of a satire on the kind of the class divide here in the UK that you probably expect. But that's really kind of a secondary level of comedy here, because the main level of comedy here is more dick jokes, poo jokes, that kind of thing. So if that is your sense of humour, then you are going to love this film. I would say right from the get-go, this film has one especially big standout scene that will literally have you pissing your pants, and it is possibly one of the most hilarious, stupidly funny things I have seen, I would say, maybe in all my life. But it is going to be a taste thing. But that's kind of one scene. There are a couple of scenes I really did like it and enjoy, but for the most part I did feel that there were a few kind of misses in regards to the comedy as well. And this one is directed by Louis Leterrier, basically, who you've directed Incredible Hulk, Now You See Me, and obviously stars Sacha Baron Cohen. You've also got Mark Strong here, and basically the plot here is these are two guys that are brothers, basically, but haven't seen each other kind of 30 odd years. They were split up when they're childs. Sacha Baron Cohen's character is your typical kind of football hooligan. He's a layabout. He's got loads of kids. He's kind of really on the bottom rung of the kind of the social ladder, whilst Mark Strong's character has adopted into a more wealthy upper class family, has had a good upbringing. Basically, has gone into the kind of the military and become this sort of kick-ass spy. And these two guys paths meet, and they kind of go on an adventure together. Now, the action does kind of form into somewhat of a typical kind of formulaic spy plot. I don't think the plot here is going to kind of break any new ground here, but obviously it's kind of you're watching this more for the comedy, I would say, than the action. The action certainly isn't bad, but aside from a few shots where you've seen this kind of first person view, which is down to these little mini cameras that some of them have in their eyes, which I guess you haven't seen too much of, and it's quite fun, but obviously we've got Hardcore Henry coming out, which is a whole movie like that. I think maybe it works better in these kind of little sort of segments, but the action isn't bad, but it's nothing you really haven't seen before aside from that odd camera angle. But the comedy here is going to be the real kind of like the thing that kind of either puts you off or really kind of brings you into this film. If you find poo jokes funny, if you find dick jokes funny, you're going to love this movie. Like I said, there are some very good laugh out loud hilarious moments here, but it does have this kind of a little bit more of a subtle level, this kind of satire, basically this kind of working class satire, and has a bit of commentary on that. You have a kind of a quite a decent cast here, I have to say, although some of them do have incredibly small roles. Ian McShane, Penelope Cruz are all in this film, but they do have very kind of small roles, so don't be expecting to see a lot of them in this film. There are a couple of other kind of cameos that I will say, but I'm not going to spoil them for you. I would say if you are going to see this film, try not to kind of read too much into some of the jokes in regards to, don't kind of have a look on the internet about what they're going to be, because I didn't know what was coming, and some of that was just so hilarious, but only if you like that kind of humour. If you're easily offended, and there's certain reviewers we have here on YouTube that are somewhat sensitive, they're going to hate this movie, so you are going to get a real mix of opinions on this film. Like I said, if you're easily offended, you're probably not going to like this movie. However, if you do like a kind of blue humour, and you maybe do like a little bit of a cerebral humour sprinkled in there as well, then I suggest checking this one out. I actually kind of quite enjoyed it. It was a satisfying comedy action film, somewhat formulaic in the plot. Some of the jokes didn't hit, and I guess I've only ever had one other little gripe. I didn't feel the chemistry between Mark Strong and Sacha Baron Cohen quite worked as well as it could have. I was a little bit surprised. I mean, they're meant to be a bit standoffish, but I don't know, they aren't quite mixing as well as I thought. Not to a, like I said, not to any major standard, but I don't know. But overall, this is a fun film, very divisive, like all of his other movies. But I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10. I enjoyed it. I literally couldn't stop laughing at one point. So If you have seen that scene, you're going to know the scene I'm talking about. Don't spoil it in the comment section, because it really, if it takes you by surprise, you're going to be interested. Anyway, 7 out of 10 for me. What do you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.